thinking about what I need for the wheel controls, I need something that simulates the sort of bouncing effect when the car is moving across the ground, so all of the suspension, and that's going to take and encompass the full wheel, so all of the wheels, the disc brakes, and the tires as well. We also need to be able to rotate those wheels, so give animators control over the rotation of the wheels, and lastly we need to be able to squish those tires into the ground so that it looks like there's more weight depending on where the car's standing or rolling, or if it's got a flat tire and things like that. So with that said, let's go in and create the first one, which is going to be to encompass the full wheel and everything about it. That's going to enable us to get that nice bouncing effect, sort of simulating where the suspension is going to be. So in our create tab, go down to shapes and let's create a rectangle. And like usual, I'm not worrying about the initial placement. I'm just going to right click and end the tool. Over to the modify tab, so I've got all of the information that I need, all the parameters. And I'm going to do Shift and A just to align it up to the wheel. And I'm going to drop it to the floor by right clicking the Z position spinner. And I really want to change the sizes of this, so let's have a look. Maybe 25 for the width, and we want that a bit longer. I think so 50 probably looks good. And that's going to take the full wheel and allow us to do the suspension. Let's rename this right now so that we're going along and renaming stuff. So VH underscore car underscore wheel front, because it's the front wheel, underscore R for the right side, and CTRL for control. And with that done, we can start moving this around. So if we hold down Shift, click and drag just to copy it, make sure it is a copy, remove that 001 that gets added automatically, and change the R for an L. And I'm going to use that Shift and A for the point, for the align to this point, and right click that Z spinner to drop it back down. And let's move to the back. So Shift, click and drag, copy, remove the 001. We can leave the L, but we're going to have to change the front for a rear. And let's just do the other side as well. So let's move that across. Remove the 001 and change the L for an R. So Shift and A. Let's just align that, and here we go. And just going to drop this to the floor as well. So that's all of those controls done. We need now to move to the controller that allows the animator to rotate the wheel. So back to the create menu, down to shapes, let's get a circle. That looks good. So Shift and A just to align it again. And let's rotate that around. Make sure that you've got a angle snap toggle enabled, and do this by 90 degrees, negative or positive, doesn't really matter at the moment. And let's move that off of the wheel. That looks good. It probably looks a bit big, so I'm just going to jump to a left viewport, and let's start scaling this down a little bit by using the radius and the parameters. And let's do 27.5 maybe. It looks pretty good. It's sort of close to the radius of the wheel. And with that said, I need to actually move the pivot point of this controller and position it where the wheel actually rotates from. So across the hierarchy tab, affect the pivot, Shift and A to where that is. Affect the pivot, just turn that off again. And now we can control the wheel from that point, which is great. And let's go in and rename this. So VH underscore car underscore wheel rotation front R control. This is a pretty big name, but that's fine. Okay, so let's Shift, click and drag, copy it. Let's change that 001. Let's leave the R and change the front for a rear. And once we do this a quick align, that should line up just fine, which it does. Cool. So let's do the same again. Let's just grab this, Shift, click and drag. I'm going to change the 001, remove that, change the R for an L. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to do my Shift and A trick and align it, and you'll notice it's on the other side. That's really easy, so we'll just do 180 in the Z rotation. Done. And we'll do one more copy and remove that 001. We'll leave L and we'll change it to front, and again Shift and A. Cool. Next thing we can look at is getting the squishy tires in. I'm going to use a down arrow for this as well, so I'm just going to grab this steering control, shift click and drag just to copy it out. I'm going to rename it to VH underscore car underscore tire front underscore R control. And Shift and A again to the controller, and we need to start rotating this around. This is obviously way too big at the moment, but don't worry about that. 90 degrees, and we'll do another 90. And let's jump to a top view port, and I'm just going to eyeball this and move it out to line up with this guy. Perfect. And now we can go back into the X form, go to the gizmo, and start scaling this to fit what we need. Gonna zoom this down, maybe this way as well. Awesome. And I think that looks good for what I want from this. So I'm just gonna hit Control and V instead of doing the normal move with the shift held down. I'm just going to do Control V. That's going to come up with my clone options. I want to copy it again, and I'm going to knock out that 001, change that to an L, and instead of moving it across and doing the Shift and A trick, I'm just going to come back down here and quickly just remove this negative, and this should pop across to the other side and be lined up perfectly, just like so. Excellent. And let's do the same again, but this time I'm just gonna click Shift and drag, move it along, copy it, and instead of front it's the rear. And for this I will actually do the Shift and A trick and then move this out again. So that was what was that? I think that was 80, so just grab the front, copy out the X position, so 80.971, and just paste that in there as well. Perfect. Control V, copy, and do the right side. So we just need to change the L for an R and put a negative value in this X position. Done. Excellent. The last thing I really want to do is use these locators that we still got in place and allow, instead of just having single control over one of these wheels, I want to be able to allow the animator to have control over both wheels at the same time. So let's just create another rectangle. Use Shift and A just to move it up, and then go to the Modify panel and change the length and width. So let's do 25 on the length. The width we can pull out past the wheels so that they can actually grab hold of it. Probably not up to where the arrow is pointing down, so let's move that in a bit. Maybe 155, 160. Yeah, 155 is probably going to be a bit nicer. Cool. So let's just rename this one VH underscore car underscore, we'll call this an axle front underscore control. And finally, let's just shift click and drag, copy, change the 001 and change this to rear instead of front. And again, Shift and A to the back. And all that's left to do now is let's just reparent this to the control, the base control, so that we know where our controllers are in the scene when we look at the schematic view. So I'm just control clicking all of these controllers, the wheels, and making sure that we use the select and link tool, link those up. let's unhide all. So right click, unhide all. Let's just zoom out a little bit. And let's bring back the schematic view just to have a look. And everything looks really clean. That's really cool. I'm going to leave these two extra locators that tell me where the center of the wheels for the front and rear are, because the rest of it looks really clean and I know exactly what everything's doing. So next thing we can do is go in and color code these controllers.